Okay, so 57. Well, we're probably going to do all these, and we'll do them as quickly as we can here, because this is review for the final. So what I would do is I would split these into two different ones. 3 times 2x minus 3 equals 15, and 3 times 2x minus 3 equals negative 15. And I would probably should say that all I've done is basically turn these into parentheses, because whatever happens over here will eventually be a 15 because the absolute value. And I probably, not that it matters, but I probably should have divided by 3 to begin with, because you're trying to isolate that absolute value. Turns out that's not going to have an effect on it anyway. You essentially have 2x minus 3 equals 5, and then what that does over here is 2x minus 3 equals negative 5. So you add the 3 to both sides, you have 2x equals negative 2, so x equals negative 1. And then if I add 3 here, I get 2x equals 8. So 4 and negative 1 are the two solutions there. Here you only have one solution, and I'll get people a lot of the times trying to multiply by 4 or something like that to turn it into a 64. But what we want to do is we want to boil these down to be a base to a power. You can do that with a 2 or a 4 for that matter. It's probably better to get the biggest number possible that'll be raised to a power into either one of these. So you've got 4 squared, which is another way of looking at 16, to the 2x plus 3, and 4 to the third power, which is also to the x plus 2. So once we have our common base, you can distribute the exponents. This is 4 then to the 4x plus 6, if I'm distributing the 2 to both. And 4 over here to the 3x plus 6 as well. Now, the fact that it's a plus 6 in both cases, and the bases are now the same, so I can just say 4x plus 6 equals 3x plus 6. The fact that they're both 6s, if I subtract 6 from both sides, I have 4x equals 3x. If I subtract the 3x from both sides, I end up with an x equals 0. And that's the solution there. Here we got to square both sides. Get rid of the radicals, so I got an x plus 2 equals, and then if I FOIL this thing out, x minus 4 and x minus 4, I get an x squared. The outer and the inner give me a minus 4x and another minus 4x, and then the last gives me a plus 16. I move everything over, minus the x here, and you end up with 0 on this side. The x squared stays intact. This is a minus 9x. This is a plus 14. It factors. X minus 2, x minus 7. They're both negative because when you multiply them together they add up to 14. Equals 0. So the two solutions, at least temporarily, are x equals 2 and x equals 7. Now the interesting thing is there's only one spot. So when you plug it in, if I plug in a 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, the square root of 4 is 2. If I plug in 2 here, 2 minus 4, well that's a negative 2. Those are not equal to each other. So this guy here is an extraneous solution. But if you plug 7 in, it will work for both of them, so the answer is 7. And lastly in this section, and I'll probably do this instead of this because they're kind of the same. So when you get down to this section here, I'll probably bypass this, but it's because it's kind of the same as this. And it's not really, darn it. I'll do that. Your common denominator, if you factor this, it's x plus 1 and x minus 1. So if you multiply through each of these by that product, x plus 1, x minus 1, and you got to do it 3 times, because there's 3 terms. What's going to happen here is that this entire thing cancels with that entire thing, and you're left with just 12. Nothing cancels here. So you have this 2 times, well, and I FOILed it out, or I factored it, but really it's going to be times this x squared minus 1. And then on the other side of the equal sign, that cancels with this. So I have a 3x times that x minus 1. 3x times x minus 1. It's getting a little congested there, so we'll clean things up a little bit. This is a 3x squared minus 3x, and it's equal to, if I distribute the 2, 2x squared minus 2 plus 12. So I've got x squareds, I have whole numbered stuffs and x's and whatnot. So let's move everything to this side because my x squareds will deteriorate there. So if I subtract 2x squared from both sides and I combine these, that's a 10. If I subtract 10 from both sides, what that all becomes, and I don't have much space for it, so we'll make space. I've got x squared minus 3x minus 10, now it's equal to 0. So this is factorable. X minus 5, x plus 2. Two solutions, x equals 5, x equals negative 2. There they are. A lot of work, a lot of review.